Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of His eye. Let's get to work.
Shalom, everyone. It's been a minute since we've had a lesson, but we're going to continue with our Bible lesson for this calendar year under the theme, Build a Righteous Nation Again, using Yah's blueprint or Yahuwah's blueprint. In the first quarter, January, February, and March, we were looking at the simplicity of what the gospel is, being encouraged to find our tribe and build with that tribe, protect that tribe. And that is how we get to a national identity. We're in the end of the second quarter where we've been talking about how to choose leaders wisely, and we've talked about scriptures that delve into that. And we've even looked more closely at the qualities of godly leaders. We looked at that in terms of the scriptures, and we also looked at the idea of godly leaders from our own personal and group experiences with some of the ancestors. So as we move into the third quarter, we're still looking at the institutions that those godly leaders are to help us as we build, but then in preparation going into the third quarter to leave Babylon. We're going to be talking about some of the specifics of that. And then finally, the fourth quarter, how to pass the baton to the next generation. I got a chance to visit my hometown recently. Lots of good things are happening there, and I give thanks to the Father for His blessing on my former community, and the community deals with how to minister to the needs of our children. The reason I went back was because I did a summer camp, a summer music camp for youngsters, and in conjunction with the Don Moyer Boys and Girls Club, we had a very successful camp. But we did find, as we were presenting the camp, that there are different cultures even within our community. And sometimes one of the reasons our community has issues with quote unquote unity is because we actually are a disparate people group. There are people who have been lumped all together by those who are the ruling class. And in some senses, we actually aren't in the same people group. That's why the idea of finding your tribe becomes so important, because at this particular point in time, it is needful that we find the right tribe that we are supposed to be in and build with that tribe. There are lots of tribes on the earth. There are lots of people groups on the earth. Most of them know their own group. Our people, however, are confused. And that's why what we are doing here in our lesson is to bring scriptural clarity to who the Most High is, who we are in relationship to Him, and or to the eternal. I'll take it out of the gender role, and what we are supposed to be doing in preparation for what is to come. So that's what this study has been about, and that's why it's so important that we find the tribe that we're supposed to be in, or that we've already been ordained to be in, and build with that tribe, because there are things that each one of the tribes has to do that only they have been assigned to do. Okay, so we're going to continue with our study along those same lines, and we'll be looking at underneath this question of who is Yasharel or who is Israel, and move from there. So Israel or Yasharel are the actual bloodline sons of Jacob, whose name was changed by Yahuwah to Yasharel, or what we call Israel. The whole house of Israel, this is a quick review, and then we're going to be reading from scripture. The whole house of Israel is comprised of Jacob, his two wives, Rachel and Leah, and their two maidens or handmaidens or servant girls, Zilpah and Bilhah. Okay, so from those four women, with Jacob as the patriarch, the 12 tribes of Israel, because Jacob's name, after he wrestled with that angel, asking the angel to bless him, his name, part of the blessing was that his name would change to the name of Yasharel, which means ruling with the Most High, ruling with Yah. Okay, so his sons, his 12 sons, represent those 12 tribes or families, if you will, or even ethnic groups that belong to a nation. All right. So the thing that they all had in common was their father. From the house of Yasharel, the first son, Reuben, then Simeon, then Levi, then Judah, then Dan and Naphtali by Bilhah, Rachel's maid, and then Gad, Asher, Issachar, and Zebulun by Zilpah, Leah's maid, and finally Joseph and Benjamin when Jacob and Rachel finally had their two children. Okay, so that comprises the children of Israel or Yasharel. And at the end of Jacob's life, he gives a prophetic word or speaks a prophetic word over each one of his sons. Okay, we went through that as well, and I'm not going to rehearse that again, but each one of the sons was brought before him. Now, what is on the screen now is about Judah, because Judah, it says, your brothers shall praise you. Judah actually means praise. Your brothers shall praise you, your hands on the necks of your enemies. Father's sons will bow down to you, or your father's sons will bow down to you. Judah is a young lion. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the staff from between his feet till Shiloh comes. And that word Shiloh is very similar to Shalom. Okay. So in other words, till the Prince of Peace comes. All right. Till Shiloh comes, and the allegiance of the nations is his. In other words, when Shiloh comes, all the nations will be aligned underneath him. That's why Judah is highlighted here, because Judah has a special ministry even going into these last days. We talked about that already again, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, just so that you know. But each one of the sons was given their their trajectory or their prophetic purpose. Okay, so this is the rest of Jacob's family. Now we're going to look, though, at what happened, and then we're going to be reading several scriptures to bring this particular session together. So we talked about Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was actually ministering to the tribe of Judah when Judah had been split off from by the 10 tribes. So you had 10 tribes in the north, and then you had Judah and Benjamin in the south. And Judah was still the place where the scepter was. And if you remember, the scepter means the ruling arm of the Most High was still in Judah, even though the nation had separated itself. Okay, so Judah was the last of those two nations to go into captivity, but they actually went. That's what the scriptures tell us when Babylon came and destroyed Jerusalem and Judea. Well, in that process, Ezekiel was one of the captives that was taken into Babylon, but the Most High was using Ezekiel to prophesy to his people, specifically the people who were the bloodline descendants from Judah and the Levitical priesthood. One of the visions that the Most High gave him, we all know as the Valley of Dry Bones, but he gave him another vision too, which was the vision of the new city that they were to build. Okay, and so that's what this slide represents. Ezekiel was given by the angel a vision of a restored Jerusalem after they had been conquered. And so it talked about 12 gates of the city, 3 on the north side, 3 on the south side, 3 on the east side, and 3 on the west side. So that's what this represents. And each one of those gates represented one of the 12 tribes of Yasharel. Okay. And keep that in mind, because toward the end of the presentation, that's going to become relevant as we read the scripture. Okay, so having seen that, then let's look at specifically what happened with Judah. Okay, so who and where is Judah in 2023? This is where the lesson becomes relevant to our current situation. If you want to know who the descendants of Judah are, you can follow the migration patterns, and you will find where the children of Judah, or the tribe of Judah, ended up being dispersed. Because as Isaiah chapter 11 says, and I'm going to pull that up right quick. Isaiah chapter 11, and I'm going to read starting at verse 12. Well, actually, I'll start at verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Most High shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. These were all the places that the nation of Judah were scattered because of their rebellious nature against the Most High. Okay, verse 12 is the verse that we're looking at. It says, "And he shall set up a sign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth." And those four corners, that word corners actually means the wings. So basically, the boundaries of the earth that Judah was dispersed to, they're going to be regathered. Okay. But the implication is that Judah is all over the earth. Okay. So some of them, however, are currently living in Babylon. What we see in 2023 is you can look at North America, you can look at Brazil, you can look at India, you can look at some parts of Africa, you can look at the UK, and you will find the children who are the bloodline descendants of Judah. Now, the idea that they have been scattered, however, is something that even people who are a part of the bloodline are having a hard time understanding. When the Most High scattered them, they went among other people and they started mixing with other people. So it's very hard to identify someone in 2023 by their bloodline, okay? Because there are lots of different bloodlines. But that's why we keep mentioning to find your tribe, because your tribe has your bloodline in it, but your tribe also has your eternal purpose. So what you are to do is to find those people with your eternal purpose. But the bottom line is those who are so-called Negroes are the dispersed and the despised across the world. Those people, in many cases, are from the tribe of Judah. And that's why when you look at the so-called transatlantic slave trade, and please understand that that was not the first time that Judah was dispersed. Judah, as with Israel, being a stiff-necked and hard-hearted people, apt to go off after its own will, finds itself as a people group all across the world. And part of what the Deuteronomy 28 curse says is that Judah will forget who she is or who he is. Okay. And so that is in fact the case. But in this last day, what is happening is Judah is being revived, just as Ezekiel said. So now we're in a point in time when people are beginning to realize I have a heritage that I didn't know I had. And so all of that is happening in real time as we speak. Okay. So this becomes important as we'll see a couple of minutes. Now, this slide represents a scripture in Revelation chapter 21. All of this will make sense at the as we bring these ideas together before the end of this session. But I'm going to read parts of Revelation chapter 21 now. I'm going to start reading in Revelation chapter 21, verse 9. And there came unto me one of the seven angels which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come here, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from the Most High, having the glory of the Most High, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. The reason why this image is up on the screen now is because this city had, I'm going to start reading at verse 15. He said, And he that talked to me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. So John the Revelator was told that by this angel, I'm going to measure the city that you are looking at coming down from heaven. And so he uses this golden reed to do that. And verse 16 says, And the city lies foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a representation of how big that city was. Now, we'll come back to that in just a little bit. Here's another depiction of it. It's 1,500 miles long, and 1,500 miles wide, and 1,500 miles high. I want you to think of how those dimensions can be fathomed, and it's hard to do. All right. But that's the New Jerusalem. It's 1,500 miles high. Now, in that city, there are foundations of 12 stones. There are 12 gates with 12 angels, and each one of those angels represents one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 stones are the stones that are representations of the 12 tribes of Israel. So you get the picture that the Most High absolutely is not finished with his people. And we're only moving into the time when that is going to be manifesting itself. Okay, so this New Jerusalem, now we're going to read several verses. I already read a little bit from Revelation, but I'm going to start in Genesis chapter 49, and I'm going to read verse 18. Genesis chapter 49, verse 18. Well, actually, I'm going to read Genesis chapter 49, starting at verse 10. This is again talking about Judah. Okay. And the reason why we keep our focus on Judah is because Judah's territory that was given by the Most High through Moses included Jerusalem, and Jerusalem became like the capital of the nation. Okay, so verse 9 says, Genesis chapter 49, verse 8. It shouldn't be 18, it should be 8. Judah, you are he whom your brethren shall praise. That's what we read before. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you are gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? Verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Okay, so remember that. Now we're going to look at First Chronicles chapter 17. First Chronicles chapter 17, and I'm going to start reading at 11. And it shall come to pass when your days be expired that you must go to be with your fathers, that I will raise up your seed after you, which shall be of your sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build me a house, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son, and I will not take my mercy away from him as I took it from him that was before you. This is talking to David about what the Most High did with Saul when Saul was disobedient. Verse 14, but I will settle him in my house and in my kingdom forever, and his throne shall be established forevermore. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. Okay, this is the blessing that the Father was giving to David as David is getting ready to make his transition into the ancestral realm. All right, and what David is being told is, I'm going to have your seed sit in your seat, and that will be forever. What we know is that David's son Solomon sat in his seat after David died, but Solomon died. And not only did Solomon die, but right after Solomon died, the kingdom was split up because of Solomon's idolatry. So this was not talking about Solomon. This was actually talking about the King of Kings. This was talking about Yeshua. Okay, so the Most High was allowing Nathan to prophesy to David that from David's throne, Yeshua was going to come. That's what the scriptures mean by the scepter shall not depart from Judah. The rulership from heaven has been established from the very beginning and is still going on. All right. So David was given that promise in First Chronicles chapter 17. Now, if we look over to First Peter, which is right before the end of the Bible, in First Peter chapter 1, verse 1 says, Peter, an apostle of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, to the strangers scattered through Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High, the Father, through the sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach unto you, and grace unto you, and peace be multiplied. As a reminder, Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles. So when Peter wrote this, he was not writing to Gentiles. He was writing to his people, the children, the bloodline children of Yasharel, of Israel. First Peter is almost at the end of what we call the New Testament. He's still continuing the blessing that the Most High gave to the children of Yasharel, and specifically the children of Judah. And now those who have accepted the Messiah are carrying out their purpose. So part of Peter's purpose was to strengthen his people. That's what First Peter is all about. Now, with that in mind, we'll go to First Peter chapter 2, and we'll start reading in verse 5. He's talking again, well, as he says, he's talking to the strangers scattered through Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia. See, the nation has already been dispersed. And most likely, this was happening around the time when Jerusalem was being under siege with the Romans. But there were, even before the Romans brought Jerusalem under siege, the children of Judah were beginning to go other places. Okay, so these places, Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia, those are all places outside of the land of Israel. But the places that he was focused on had his people there already. And actually, that was the case with Paul too. Even though Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, the places where Paul went were populated by his people. That's why he was sent to the Jew first and then to the Greek. Okay. But with Peter was still talking to his own people. So in talking to his own people, he says, First Peter chapter 2, verse 1. Laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envyings and all evil speakings, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. If so be you have tasted that the Most High is gracious, to whom as unto a living stone, this is why we're taking the time for this, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of the Most High and precious, talking about Yeshua. He is the chief cornerstone. But then he says in verse 5, you, talking about the children of Yasharel, who have been completed in their conversion, or are being completed in their conversion, knowing that Yeshua is their Messiah. Okay. He says, you as living stones are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Yahuwah by Jesus Christ, by Yeshua HaMashiach. All right. So remember, the people that he is talking to and encouraging are just being told the Most High has a house. You are that house, and you are living stones in that house. Another way of saying it, the Most High has a city. You are that city. Remember what John saw. He saw the New Jerusalem coming from heaven as a bride adorned for her husband. Okay, so let's go on. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1 says, for we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of the Most High, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. It's the same house. Okay. It's when we think about house in our society, we think of our little place that we live in. But a house can also be a people group. Okay. So and a people group can also be a city. all right, or live in a city and become a society. So that's what he's saying. He's saying, even when your body goes back to the dust, you have an eternal body and you are a stone in that body. Now, why am I saying that? It's because of what First Peter said. You are living stones. Okay, it's the same thing, and you're living stones in this house or in this tabernacle that isn't made with human hands. When we think about heaven coming down here, or when we think about going up to heaven, we hear what Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions, and we're thinking about, okay, so all of our understanding comes from the temporal and the material. The Most High wants his people to understand those things are shadows of what this all is really about, because it's really about you. You are those living stones. Then in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 11, he says, but Christ, being come a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood, he entered once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. So again, what we're seeing are scriptures backing up or laying the foundation for this new Jerusalem that is coming down from heaven. Okay, so and in that new Jerusalem, if we were to read on, what we would would be able to see is that the new Jerusalem. Well, now let's go back to Revelation chapter 21. We're going to read a few more of those scriptures from where we left off. So after 15, it says that talks about him measuring the city and the gates. Verse 16, which is what we were talking about, and the city lies 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. That's 1,500 miles. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. The city was pure gold, tried in the fire, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprasus, the 11th jacinth, the 12th amethyst. And the 12 gates, now listen to this, were 12 pearl. Every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. Verse 22, and I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of the Most High did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Now, what we as finite and mortal humans do is we try to get our hands or arms around what we just read from the perspective of what we know about, which is bricks and mortar and dirt and rocks and precious stones. But if we remember what Hebrews and First Peter said, they said that the Most High has made us that building. So actually, when we're reading this, we're reading about the nature of his people and the purpose of his people. I used to wonder when I read this with my earth-centered mind, why would gates be made of pearl? Because I know how a pearl is made. A pearl has to do with irritation, or it has to do with a chemical process that is inside of an oyster. And from those oysters come what we call pearls. And so my question to the Most High was, how can that be? If this is something that is spiritual, well, yes, if this is something of the spirit that comes down from heaven, why are there huge pearls as entryway into your city? And then I remembered the Bible verse that says, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who surveyed a field and he found a precious pearl. That was a pearl of great price. And so what he did was he went and sold all that he had to buy that field so that he could get that pearl of great price. Then it dawned on me, because we read what Revelation 21 had already said. The gates have an angel by them that is representative of the 12 of one of the 12 tribes. So in essence, that irritation and that perfecting is us. That's what happens to us as his people. So that's the analogy of the pearl, the so-called pearly gates. It's the trials and the troubles that we have gone through that make us worthy to be able to be an entryway to the Most High's kingdom, because we know about those who want to come in because we're just like them. Okay. But he appointed us to be an entryway. Do you see now why it's so important to know who your tribe is and to identify with your tribe? How can people come into the kingdom if you don't know that you're the door, you're the gate? We don't have to look for any pearls or try to figure out in our own head what how big the pearls have to be. And even with all those dimensions, it's not about the dimensions. It's about the vastness of the Most High's kingdom in comparison to our little planet that we're living on. Okay, so when we read Revelation chapter 21, that's what he is showing us. So a lot of people don't realize that there was a culture the people understood these things from. We are understanding things from a culture that didn't know the root. And I'm talking about Western culture. I'm not criticizing Western culture. The Bible wasn't written by Westerners, and the Bible wasn't written to Westerners. The Bible was written to and by the Most High and his people. And they lived not in Western Europe. They lived in what we would call Northeast Africa. All right. So you have to look at the culture of those people if you really want to understand what the scriptures are saying. And so from that understanding, we understood that even before everyone embraced the idea of the fact that there's only one God, they all knew that gods were separate from everybody else. So if everybody else was living on the plain, then the gods must be in the mountains. And where the gods lived, being in the mountains, was also a place of solitude and of peace, i.e., a garden. So on top of the mountain is this garden. All right. So that's what our people, when we were in our right mind, understood about their relationship to the Most High. They weren't trying to figure the Most High out in terms of, so how many inches and how many feet is this? These are analogies to based on our experiences so that we can see a larger spiritual principle. And again, I'm going somewhere with these comments. Hopefully you're catching it. So this holy Jerusalem that comes down out of heaven and it comes from the Most High, don't you see he's talking about his people? We're not supposed to be looking for a physical location. Let's go back so that you can see why that doesn't make a lot of sense. This again is how big those dimensions are. First of all, it won't even fit in the Middle East. Okay, so that's how we know that's not even the physical location of Israel. It will fit in Africa, but that's not even the point. The point is it's huge. Okay, 1,500 miles in a cube. All right, which means that it's large enough to be the light of the world. Just like Yeshua said, you are the light of the world. He didn't say you need to build buildings that are the light of the world. He said we are the light of the world. All right. And if you also notice what was read, it said John said he saw it coming down out of heaven, but he didn't see it land. And that's because it's not a physical location, because there is no mountain range that's 1,500 miles in a cube, because that's what this city would have to sit on. That's how we know it's an analogy as opposed to the physical dimensions of it. Okay, so I'm not saying that it's not real. What I'm saying is we have to elevate our understanding, so because he wants us to know about who we are. Okay, so that holy city has always been in heaven. When it comes down from heaven, that's what the prayer in Matthew is all about. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. The kingdom is already in heaven. The holy Jerusalem is already in heaven. That's what's descending down from heaven. But where is it descending, or from whom is the kingdom of heaven descending? And what does the kingdom of heaven look like? It looks like the people of the Most High, because there's a purpose for this city. And we didn't actually read it, but the city, the reason why it has 12 gates is so folks can come in and out. Those gates are always open. What society do you know that is always open? There is none on earth. We are closing our societies off. The society that is open is the Most High's people. Whosoever will, let him come in. Come in where? Through the gate. Where's the gate? Follow me. That's what the Most High's people are supposed to be doing, not with just one another, because each one of us, if we're operating in the tribe that he has given to us, all have our gates that we are to be manning. We don't have time to be arguing with one another. We all know our assignments. And so our assignment is to be like Yeshua. That's our assignment, because Yeshua is God in the flesh. So that's the blessing that the Most High wants us, his people, to realize. And that's why it's so important for us to be who we're supposed to be. Right now, we're dead. We must be resurrected as a people. And when we're resurrected as a people, that's when Yeshua's encouragement to us: you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. That's our job. Our job is to shine, especially in this dark, dark place right now. Okay, so we can focus on all of the things that are going wrong in the quote unquote hood, or the community, or even the nation for that matters, and not even get into the world. We can focus on those things, and we will miss the blessing that the Most High has for us, his people, because we're supposed to be the answer to those things. Yes, Jesus is the answer. Jesus, as the high priest and having the government on his shoulders, has a governing group of people that is to minister what his blessing is. His blessing is a blessing of peace. His blessing is a blessing of love for your neighbor. It's all those things that we never connected the dots about, because they were all talking to you and about you, not somebody else. You are that light. Yasharel, wake up. Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance upon